Okay.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're coping all right during this new phase of stage 4 lockdowns in Victoria, as well as others around Australia who are facing the impact of the current pandemic. Raph and I thought that it's worthwhile sharing with you some insights and strategies that we've seen work well for some of our clients during this time. And hopefully you can implement them in your own businesses and as a result, survive and perhaps even thrive during these tough times. So one of the things that you've probably seen people talk about during this time is this idea of pivoting, right? People are throwing that word around. But the question is, what does that actually mean? We hear this word, but practically, what does it mean? How do you do it? How does it apply in your own business? And so we'd like to share a few different examples of what that might look like. So at the very extreme, when people hear the word pivot, it means changing businesses entirely. And while for most of our clients, that's not what we mean when we use the word pivot. There are some clients, perhaps if they're in travel industry, or perhaps some people in entertainment, who are not able to function at all in their current incarnation of their business, and they may need to totally pivot and look at a different form of business altogether. But for most people, they're able to operate in some capacity. And if you think creatively and in an innovative way, there may be other ways to pivot to enable the business to continue on and as I said, perhaps even thrive during these times. I'd like to share some specific examples with you. So one example is that you can offer a new service or product offering, one that your business had not offered up until this point. Raph, do you want to share some examples of that?
Yeah, so in terms of offering a new service or new product, so it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, you have to think about what new products can we get or new services can we create. It's about sort of repackaging what you already have. So for example, we've worked with a food business client, commercial food business client, and they've got chefs, they've got people that create, the food and the service and offer the product, but how could they repackage that if offices are closing down and businesses are not operating? So what they were able to do is actually launch more of a home style food service, delivering specifically themed type foods to people's homes, with the same high quality levels that they had offering to the commercial clients. So that was a great way, and they've actually made it a real ongoing aspect of their business, where there's themes changed up all the time, weekly or every couple of weeks, which hopefully when their business goes back to normal, and for the rest of us as well, it might be a new division of their business. So that's great. We've also seen in allied health where people have been able to think, okay, well, I've got this skill set in this area, so maybe I can launch this type of niche service or niche product. There's always a niche of a niche that you can fulfill in this day and age. So that's a couple of examples where people have actually launched a new division of their service or product. There's another aspect, I don't know, Joel, if you have anything to add to that, but there's also about transitioning online. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So at one level, this is an obvious one, but if you haven't made this change yet, it could be a really powerful one. And that is, if you were purely a face-to-face service previously, then moving to an online-based service can be a powerful way of enabling you to continue operations and grow. So, you may have seen some industries have done this very, very quickly and nimbly. Psychologists, for example, were delivering face-to-face services and have almost universally gone online very, very simply and easily. But that's not the only example. We've got clients in the corporate training space who were doing, face-to-face workshops and have now created an online program, online courses, online offerings.
Virtual training, remote training, which is actually, I think, very innovative, because you've got lots of people sitting at home thinking about, well, how can I increase my skills? How can I, at least use this time productively whilst I'm at home? I might be going from full-time to part-time. So can I train? Can I learn something new so that when the workforce opens up again, I'm more skilled out of it? So
right.
I think that it's really, for that specific client, where they've gone from face-to-face training to online training, they've sort of adapted to the market as well, which I think, very helpful.
Correct. And even with, for example, allied health, where there are some kinds of allied health businesses where you typically, in people's minds, they think it requires someone to physically be there because it might require some sort of physical manipulation. There are often still services or aspects of services that can be done face-to-face. Certainly, for example, initial diagnostic sessions can be done face-to-face. Consultations of various kinds can be done face-to-face. Yes, there may be some services that cannot be done in this period of time, but there's often a lot that can be done for people that is genuinely helpful online. So I want to encourage people to think creatively about how they might make that work. The other kind of pivot that we've seen people engage in is keeping their current form of business offering, but taking it interstate. So for example, people in Victoria right now with the stage 4 lockdowns are quite limited, but in New South Wales, in Queensland and other states, they may not be as limited. So literally picking up their service and moving it to those states can be a powerful strategy. And we've seen a number of our clients do that.
Yeah,
Raph,
we actually, so I was going to say that even before the stage 4 restrictions, some of the clients that we work with already got a bit of a sense that this could happen. So they were already putting plans into place, like literally, speaking to contractors in other states, Sydney, Brisbane, to actually set up there. Some had already started a few months ago, and some are able to actually do that within the next week or two, because they've already put some of the groundwork in place. And also part of the thinking of this is that you might be able to create relationships with people in those other areas, and they may be able to deliver the service for you, and you might not be making as much money, but if you deliver a service there, it's better than making nothing in Victoria, where you might not be able to deliver any services. So it could just be about minimizing the damage, so to speak, with the lockdowns. But yeah, we've seen logistics companies move interstate fairly quickly. Repair type service companies, where you've got contractors, people still need things in their house, machinery, people, even at the commercial level, you still got warehouses and industrial factories still needing to operate and produce and manufacture things. So companies like that are, still needing to provide their product, their service. Just recently, we also had a client that, they want to take it international. So Australia is a market, but they also have the capability, the partnerships to go overseas in nearby areas. Just to go back to the going online, one of the corporate training companies, they're now able to pivot to New Zealand. So they're using the online version, but also going international and testing out the areas there. So I'd say that's one of the biggest areas, that you've been able to, not put all your eggs all in one basket and think about other states and regions.
And maybe we'll just finish by saying that, during this time, on one hand, it's the best and the worst time to engage in this. On the one hand, yes, it's a tough time, so it's difficult, and it may seem hard on one hand to invest in making these sorts of changes, and at the same time, it's the best time to experiment with these sorts of things and invest in the future. And for some businesses, these lines will actually be profitable ongoing lines of business, and expanding their business well into the future, even after you know, the pandemic, or this phase of the pandemic is over. And one of the lovely things is it's really easy to test this stuff.
Yep.
There are some really fast, quick ways to test it through things like Google Ads and Facebook. You know, it's almost instantaneous. You can literally just, you know, pick up what you're doing, put in place a Facebook campaign or a Google Ads campaign in another state, for example, or through you know, your online offering, and test it out in the market. And within a couple of months, you can already have some great data and feedback about the return on investment.
Yeah, just if I can just add to that, you know, over the years I've spoken to many different businesses about that. You know, my father was a bit of an entrepreneur. He still likes to think he is, but he's a bit more retired these days. But when he wanted to launch a new business idea that he had to invest in, you know, thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars in product development and sourcing it, and then renting a location, and then you'd spend hundreds of thousands of dollars before launching any new business, and then afterwards it might not work out. Whereas, you know, we've actually worked with clients before that have said, look, I've got this idea. Can you do some research? So we use the tools. We see if there's a market for it in other areas, or, you know, in their area. And, you know, with a fairly simple website and a marketing strategy, you can launch, and you don't have to necessarily, you know, rent a shop or hire staff. You can use the existing infrastructure that you have in place to offer that. And you know, the results, the instantaneousness of getting feedback and results, it can be within weeks, or it can be within a couple of months. You don't have to spend so much time and money to launch new areas of your business if you don't have to. One specific case, just before I guess you want to end it off, Joel, is, you know, one client that they wanted to test a new area, and then literally within the first week they said, okay, Melbourne, let's go wider than Melbourne. They went nationally. Within 2 weeks of actually launching this business idea, they're already engaging with a call center to handle the flow of how busy things were getting. So it just shows, again, it's not going to work for everybody, and we can't predict who it's going to be, who it's going to work for best, but there are ways that you can actually test things out much faster than what you could have done in, you know, previous generations or eras. So
Wow.
just thought I'd add that in.
No, thank you. And maybe I'll end with one final point, and that is, even if you're a business that, in where you don't feel like you can, you know, pivot in a significant or meaningful way right now, then I wouldn't give up on investing in building your brand and building a, you know, a foundation for the future, and therefore investing in things like, you know, developing content for your website and putting that content out there, whether it's blog articles, videos, you know, informative white papers and guides and other things that give people value and enable them to build trust. It's a really great time to do that now. And what it does is, even if that may not result in massive growth at this point in time, what it does is it starts to build your brand, your name, for when things change and the restrictions start to ease, and you can really hit the ground running. Investing in things like SEO, for example, search engine optimization, is more of a medium to long-term strategy, but you sort of need to invest now to have an effect in 3 months, you know, 6 months time. So have a think about some of those strategies, and we really hope that these ideas and examples have been helpful to you. And if you have any questions about how it might apply to your specific business and operation, then reach out to us. We're really happy to help. Wishing you all the best during this tough time.
Okay, thank you. All the best.